Part 139. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1381. Chapter 1381. She is the daughter of a rich family. Grandma Lee took Lee Painter to her home temporarily. Lee Painter was wiping her tears, and Grandma Lee felt pitiful when she looked at her. Oh, Painter, Grandma is getting old, and I don't know how long I can protect you. Old lady, if I really have to step into the gate of one day, how can I keep you? What to do? Grandma Lee has no special expectations when she lives to this age. The only thing she is worried about is the poor granddaughter at home. Lee Painter's stay with Grandma Lee is only temporary. She will eventually go home. Grandma Lee was worried and said she would send her back. However, Lee Painter didn't want her grandma to work so hard for her and repeatedly refused. Grandma, it's getting dark now. I can just go back by myself. My parents should have calmed down and everything will be fine. Sensible children make Grandma Lee feel even more distressed. However, she was also considerate of her granddaughter's painstaking efforts, and finally stood at the door and watched Lee Painter leave. Lee Painter was actually very hesitant on the way home. She has been used to being beaten and scolded over the years, but this afternoon, Lee's father was really angry, so she couldn't guarantee that Lee's father had calmed down now. The only excuse she could use to comfort herself was, "It's already dark now. Dad probably won't let me get the learning machine. As long as she gets through tonight, she can escape for another day when she goes to school tomorrow." Lee Painter made up her mind and walked home with an uneasy heart. Unexpectedly, the light in the kitchen at home was still on. Lee Painter quietly sneaked back to her room, but when she turned on the light, the scene in front of her shocked her so much that she was speechless. Her mouth was open and trembling, but she couldn't speak a word correctly. How? How so? The clothes she had hidden so well were thrown on the ground, and there were a few footprints on the white clothes. At this time, Mother Lee appeared at the door. This calm voice seemed to predict that Lee Painter would return home at this time. Lee Painter turned around suddenly, with her back to the wall and her eyes looking at Mother Lee. Lee's mother was eating with a bowl in her hand. She asked about the smell of deep-fried meat from the bowl. She must have fried the fat meat again. "Mom, my clothes? It seems that you gained a lot from going to the city. Tell me, where did these things come from?" "Yes, it was given by a sister. As a gift. These clothes are very nice. Did I give you something else?" When Father Lee and Mother Lee saw the clothes, they didn't understand the brands. The clothes were too small for them to wear, so they felt they were of little value. They rummaged through the things Lee Painter brought back but couldn't find anything valuable, so they had to take out their clothes to vent their anger. They even speculated that Lee Painter had packed up the good stuff, and now they were waiting for Lee Painter to fall into the trap. Mother Lee put down the bowl in her hand and walked into Lee Painter's room. Lee Painter really didn't know what to do except shake her head and say no. "Painter, your father is very angry about the learning machine. If you can't come up with anything to comfort her, I'm afraid my mother can't help you either." "But Mom, I really don't have anything." "Really? I heard from your classmates that there is a very rich young lady in that aristocratic school who likes you very much and gave you a lot of things. It can't be just these clothes, right?" Mother Lee has already inquired about it. Lee Painter's classmates all said that Lee Painter met a rich man at school, and the rich man gave him a lot of things. Lee's mother was even more sure that Lee Painter had packed up the good stuff. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1382. Chapter 1382. The only letter left that night. The next day, Lee Painter did not go to school. Joe Yuking was a little worried. Why doesn't Painter come to school today? Yesterday, the principal said that she would be commended by the whole school. The main purpose is to formally commend the people who performed at Egger Academy in front of all the teachers and students, especially Lee Painter, But today's protagonist was not present. Jo Yuking was a little worried. At this time, Lee Panner was locked up at home and could not get out. Lee's father and Lee's mother concluded that she had hidden the treasure and did not warn her, "Don't go out unless you hand it over." The Lee family's parents had to work in the fields during the day and could not keep watch over Lee Panner, so they had to keep her at home. There is only one landline phone at home, which is still installed in the room of Lee's father and Lee's mother. Lee Panner now has no way to contact the outside world. Because her movement was restricted, she couldn't even fetch water and wash clothes, so she had to fold and put away all the clothes given by Yeshiruo. This time there was no need to hide it under the bed, she piled it on the table again. While tidying up, she opened the bag in the corner. That bag also contained a very delicate little skirt. She still remembered that it was given to her by someone else when she was very young. She didn't know who the person who gave the skirt was, and her memory of the incident was a bit vague. If the skirt hadn't been preserved to this day, she might have forgotten it. By the way, there is also a piece of letter paper. Lee Panner took out a piece of paper folded several times from under the bag of her clothes. The paper is crumpled and almost torn. But she had already memorized the words and paintings on the paper deeply in her heart. The words on the letter are set against the background of a big tree, under which a girl in a skirt is dancing. That painting is very simple and not very good. At first glance, it looks like a child's masterpiece. But there is also a sentence attached to the back of the row, "This is a gift for you, I hope you like it." A girl's tears are very precious, so be strong. The text on the back is written in beautiful handwriting and comes from an adult. It is these two things that have accompanied Lee Panner through countless lonely nights. The letter paper was almost broken. She went to her grandma's house to get some transparent tape and sealed it all before saving it, but it was still a bit tattered. She has always treasured those dresses and has never touched them. The same goes for the clothes Yeshiruo gave her now. She likes it very much and appreciates it very much, but she can't really wear it. Because these things that are worthless in the eyes of Lee's parents are priceless treasures in her heart. She thought of Yeshiruo's words, "If we meet again." Lee Panner couldn't help but hope in her heart, would she be able to enter a big city one day in the future? I heard that many people in the village start working when they are 16 or 17 years old. She is 14 years old and can only learn some basic knowledge in the 6th grade. Thinking about it this way, Lee Panner felt a little depressed. With her appearance, others would think she was a 10-year-old child. She is so frail that no one would want her to work in the future. Eiger College. In addition to the regular teaching of the students, the follow-up work for the school anniversary is also coming to an end. Based on Ye Qingfeng's outstanding performance, he has now become the most popular person in the school. Other students are jealous and envious of Ye Qingfeng. Some are dissatisfied, while others admire him very much. Now teachers often use him as an example to encourage other students in class, and even praise the Ye family brothers and sisters for taking the initiative to invest in buying stationery for primary school students. This matter also reached the ears of Ye Yiwei. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1383. Chapter 1383. Ye Qingfeng was rubbed in the face. It's strange that Ruruo is so interested in a little girl from somewhere else. Zhainu Mo Ruomuo, what Yeshiruo did this time was a bit unexpected. Yeshiruo is usually very friendly to others, but this is the first time that she has taken such meticulous care. Ye Wei would not forcefully interfere with the children's affairs, but she had always paid close attention to the behavior of the two children. If she had not known that Lee Panner from the elementary school had left, she might not have been able to help but run to see them. When the two children returned home, Ye Wei did not specifically ask about it. After all, she is a woman who is a mother. She is able to think from the child's perspective. Although she will always pay attention to the child's affairs, she will not ask too many questions. If you ask too many questions, your children will be annoyed. She has always known this. However, it is essential to communicate skillfully with children on a daily basis. Ye Wei is very good at finding time, and she specially chooses the time before dinner when the two children are free to talk about things. Baby, I heard that you two are very famous in school recently. Yezhiro, who was playing a puzzle game on his tablet, raised a hand first. Hey, let me make it clear first that it was my brother who became a famous person on campus. It has nothing to do with me. It's true or not, I just heard from the housekeeper that you two funded the learning supplies for the children in primary school, and the teacher praised you very much. This time it was Ye Qingfeng's turn to raise her hand and declare, my sister asked me to help with this matter. Ye Wei waved his hand. Okay, I finally understand. You two brothers and sisters have high emotional intelligence and are the best at winning people's hearts. Ye Qingfeng turned around and asked, Mommy, are you praising us? Or are you praising us? Ye Wei put his hands on his knees, leaned his upper body forward slightly, with a big smile on his face, and said meaningfully, my two babies are praised, and my face is also proud of it. Of course I am happy to praise you. Ye Qingfeng gritted his teeth and concluded, Mommy, you are really cunning. Yes, Yezhiro nodded, and while agreeing, he hit the target. It's just a little bit worse than Daddy's rank. Yezhiro. Was she praised or put down by the children? I'm telling you, I have to correct your understanding of the status of this family today. Do you know that I am the boss of the family? Ye Wei stood up with his chest raised, his hands on his hips and faced the two with full momentum. Child, said, repeat that sentence just now. Mommy, didn't you teach us to be honest? You don't like to hear us tell the truth. Ye Qingfeng likes to pull teeth out of the tiger's mouth the most, and at this time, he still wants to show off his authority for a while. Ye Wei really no longer showed mercy. He walked over to Ye Qingfeng in 2 steps, held his handsome face in his hands and rubbed it. Yezhiro didn't even bother to play the game, she was laughing so happily beside her. Ha ha ha, brother, you are miserable. I at you and what Ye Qingfeng wanted to say turned into strange pronunciation. Ye Wei stood in front of him and asked again, come, tell Mommy, who is the boss in the family? The boss is the oldest one in the family. I just praised you for being young, but Mommy, you still bullied me. Ye Qingfeng doesn't like to admit mistakes immediately. He can find 1,000 wrong reasons. Yezhiro suddenly stretched out his hands and shook them continuously. Ye Qingfeng didn't notice it for a while, so he demoted Yezikin in order to appease Ye Wei. A tall shadow suddenly loomed over him. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1384. Chapter 1384. She was the one who suffered at night. Ye Qingfeng, come to the study with me. The cold and hard voice above his head said that there was no need to refuse, and Ye Qingfeng, who had been careless just now, suddenly became alert. He turned his body stiffly 180 degrees and saw the most authoritative man in their family standing beside him. Ye Qingfeng was immediately frightened. Dad, I just remembered that the principal asked me to write an article about my reflections on the brainstorming double subject champion. It's 10,000 words, but I'm busy. I'll go first. Apply oil on the soles of your feet and you will want to slip away. His hands and feet had already made a gesture of rushing out, but in fact he could not take a step forward because someone was holding his collar by the back. No one can escape what Yezikin has named him to do. Yezikin was walking in front, so Ye Qingfeng knew that he had to keep up. When Yezikin went upstairs, Ye Qingfeng kept turning around to sign help to Ye Weiwei and Yezhiruo, almost crying. But Ye Weiwei and Yezhiruo could only respond by shaking their heads at the same time. Also silent, good luck to you. Yezhiruo felt very sorry for her brother. Mommy, aren't you the boss at home? Isn't the boss the one with the highest say? Humph, I do have the right to speak, but I don't necessarily have the right to make decisions. She had to be more relaxed when facing Yezikin, otherwise, she would be the one who suffered in the night. Yezhiruo shook his head and continued to study the game. Only then did Yewei remember, it's almost dinner time. Yezhiruo lowered his head to play the game, his brain was thinking, his fingers were moving, and he could still reply to Ye Weiwei's words at the same time. My brother was invited into the study by Daddy to talk about life. It will probably be a while. Of course Yezikin did not ask Ye Qingfeng in to discuss the matter of being the eldest member of the family. The father and son entered the study one after another. Ye Qingfeng, who entered last, closed the door carefully. Yezikin took the lead in sitting on the main chair and asked Ye Qingfeng to sit down. Sit. There is an unwritten rule in their family, which is to know when to joke and when to take it seriously. Just like he could joke with Yezikin downstairs just now, but when he came in, he knew that there was something serious and needed to be taken seriously. If Yezikin hadn't told him to sit down, he would definitely not have sat down casually. You know the fact that you won first place in both subjects has a great influence, right? Ye Qingfeng nodded, I know. Your identity and your abilities have already destined you to be extraordinary, but when you do these things, do you already have a complete plan? Facing his father's second question, Ye Qingfeng hesitated and shook his head. He only knew that he should work hard to be the best and the best person. He had not thought about what kind of person he wanted to be or what he wanted to do. Yezikin also nodded, indicating that he understood his mentality at the moment. Only then did he begin to tell Ye Qingfeng about the recent impact. Not only is the school praising you for being interviewed by reporters, but some people even want to find you to appear in various promotional videos. As parents, we won't do this kind of thing. I'll make the decision for you, but I want you to make one yourself. In the next few years, do you want to be active in the public eye and attract everyone's attention, or are you willing to accumulate strength in the ordinary and wait until you are responsible enough to show yourself? Daddy, what does this mean? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1385. Chapter 1385. Love is precious, but life is even more valuable. 1. From now on you can do anything that will make you more successful in the eyes of others, and from now on your life will be exposed to the public. When you are under the spotlight, in addition to enjoying the envy and admiration of others, you must also have a strong heart to bear the pressure brought by honor. Let him be exposed to the public eye at such a young age. At that time, he was like a star. He had to pay attention to his words and deeds at all times and could only do what others thought was right. 2. Curb your sharp edges from now on and spend your school life in an ordinary way. You will get the freedom you deserve. Although it is very popular now, as long as the shine can be restrained, life can slowly return to ordinary life as time passes. Without the attraction of all the attention and the baggage of idols, he can do whatever he wants and gain corresponding freedom to a certain extent. This is the choice Ye Qingfeng has to make. Yezikin will not force him to make a decision because he believes that his son can be responsible for the choices he makes. Ye Qingfeng clasped his hands together and rubbed his fingers together. This was his way of relieving stress. He is thinking and making serious decisions. Yezikin remained silent, neither urging nor asking questions. Until Ye Qingfeng stood up, walked up to him, and solemnly told him the decision in her heart. The mother and daughter downstairs have already sat at the dining table. I saw Ye Qingfeng running down the stairs, followed by Yezikin. Yewei and Yezhiruo, mother and daughter, found that the expressions of the two newly arrived fathers and sons were a little serious. Ye Wei joked to lighten the mood, "I thought you two were going to talk about life without eating." Yasuhiro cooperated as much as possible. "Brother said just now that he was hungry. Daddy must have replenished energy after working so hard during the day." I brought bowls and chopsticks to his son and handed them over. Yasuhiro, being a considerate little cotton-padded man, personally gave Yezukin a chicken leg. "Daddy, you have worked hard, please eat more." This mother and daughter are the weak points of the two men in the family. They have done this, and how can they keep a straight face? Yezukin did not show his emotions. Ye Qingfeng quickly adjusted his mentality, and the family enjoyed a harvest dinner happily. After dinner, Ye Wei asked his daughter to accompany Ye Qingfeng, because the child communicated well before. She asked Yezukin about what happened in the study just now. Yezukin told Yasuhiro all about his son's recent situation. "Many people have been checking his identity recently. The exposure of light not only represents praise, but also the uncertain dangers hidden in the darkness. As a child from a wealthy family, sometimes you are under a lot of pressure. Yes, family has such a big family business. Although Yezukin is very comfortable in the shopping mall, he cannot be treated friendly by everyone. When you go out to hang out, there are always one or two enemies that you don't like. The poisonous snakes in the hesitation ground of those people are always waiting to deliver a fatal blow when they relax. Ye Qingfeng's fame comes with both honor and danger. Then what's Feng's choice?" At the same time, Yasuhiro also learned what happened from Ye Qingfeng. She also asked at the same time, "Brother, what did you just tell Daddy? Love is precious, but life is even more valuable if it's for freedom. You can throw away both." Ha! She understands. Then I will keep a low profile from now on. The first two sentences will slap you in the face. Night Breeze. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1386. Chapter 1386 Panner's condition relapses. The two brothers and sisters of the Ye family, no matter their age, have received enough respect in life, respect from their elders and understanding from their school teachers. They deliberately choose to live as they please, but they don't know that there is another person who is in dire straits. Li Panner was hungry after being locked up at home for a day, and she felt a little uncomfortable that afternoon. Originally, the cold was not completely cured, and it would take a cycle of medication to recover. She had a fever again after being tortured like this when she returned home. Grandma Li was worried and walked home, only to find Li Panner lying next to the bed. Grandma Li was so anxious that she called the only doctor in the village to come over and take a look. This time the doctor directly told her to give her an infusion. This child is seriously lacking in nutrition. Parents should give her some supplements. This is what the doctor told the parents, but then he thought about it. Everyone in the village knew what happened to the Li family. The Li family disliked the fact that Li Panner was a girl and was not good at all with the second female lead. How could they be willing to spend money to buy supplements for her? Even his medical expenses may not be covered. "Auntie Li, do you think the infusion will cost the child medicine?" Grandma Li grabbed the doctor's hand and prayed, "Just be good and have mercy on me, an old woman and my little granddaughter." It's not that Grandma Li wants to rely on her old age and sell her old age, she really has no choice. She has lost the ability to work. She can only rely on a piece of land outside her home to grow some vegetables every day and rely on the rice given by her son to live in poverty. She also raises chickens at home. When they are grown, she lays eggs and sells them. She has a little profit. A few dollars in your hands are simply not enough. But Li Panner is like this. If he doesn't get treatment, he may die. The son's daughter-in-law could not be counted on. The couple was so cruel and kept Li Panner at home. How could they be willing to spend money to treat Li Panner? So Grandma Li could only shamelessly ask the doctor, "I kneel down to you and beg you to show mercy. God will definitely bless good people." Grandma Li really wanted to kneel down as she spoke. The doctor quickly supported her and said, "Grandma Li, forget it, I'll give you a favor." "Thank you, you are a good person, and good people have a safe life." Grandma Li was very happy. The doctor gave Li Panner an infusion for free, but he couldn't afford to pay for her medicine at a loss. Li Panner mentioned that she still had some cold medicine, and the doctor asked her to take it out. Li Panner took the medicine out of her coat pocket. The doctor looked at it and nodded, "This is good medicine. If you buy these medicines outside, you will get several $100. Panner, how come you have these medicines?" "But the medicine boxes are so beautiful." Li Panner answered honestly, "When I went to that school in the city, a sister bought it for me." "That sister is really good." "Then you've met a good person, you're really lucky." Panner is lucky and has met so many good people. Panner would like to thank Grandma and Uncle. When Panner grows up and makes money in the future, he will definitely repay you. Grandma Li nodded as she listened, wiping tears behind her back. The doctor felt bad after hearing this. This child is so sensible and the doctor is so kind, how could he be so cruel and not save him? "Panner, you are weak, so you should pay more attention when you get home. If you really feel uncomfortable, you must come to Uncle's place again." He didn't expect Li Panner to repay him with anything in the future. The doctor didn't expect that his kind deed would make him brilliant for the rest of his life. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixey. Chapter 1387. Chapter 1387. Isn't Panner your daughter? The Li family couple returned home and found that their daughter was missing, and they were very anxious. They were not worried that something would happen to their children, but they were angry. This Li Panner is really going to rebel, and he actually dares to run away. At this time, Grandma Li took the weak Li Panner back home and refused to let Li Panner go back. Father Li found Grandma Li and said, "Mom, have you seen Panner?" No. Grandma Li gave a direct negative answer. Father Li was a little suspicious and deliberately walked into the house to take a look. "Panner! Li Panner!" he shouted several times, but no one answered. Grandma Li deliberately kept a straight face. "I told you Panner wasn't here, are you doubting me, an old woman?" "Mom, don't be angry, I'm worried because I can't find Panner." "Afraid? Oh, now that you know you are anxious about your daughter, what do you know what to do?" Okay, since Panner is not here, I will look elsewhere first." Father Li probably felt too lazy to bother with the old lady, so he walked out the door without saying anything more. After confirming that Father Li had left, Grandma Li closed both the front and back doors before entering the room where she usually slept. This room rarely turns on the lights and is very dark during the day, so Father Li did not come here to check. Grandma Li made dinner before calling her granddaughter up. "Panner, it's time to get up and eat. Li Panner's cold is not over yet." She came back and took a nap after the infusion, and her head is still a little groggy now. She hasn't eaten for a day, and her body really can't bear it. While eating, Grandma Li actually said that she wanted to feed her, and Li Panner cried at that time. Grandma is so kind to her, but she can't do much to help her, and she keeps dragging her down. Sometimes when Father Li scolded her, he would tell her to die without hesitation. Once when she was standing by the pond, she really wanted to jump down and end her life. If she hadn't been thinking about her grandma, she might have done something stupid. Even though she is small, she actually understands everything in her heart. I just don't have the guts to resist, nor the ability to resist. Li's parents only care about money, but she doesn't have it. "Grandma, I'll go back after eating in a while." What are you going back for? You are not allowed to go back. Li Painter didn't want to cause trouble to her grandma, and her grandma didn't want her granddaughter to go back and suffer. Both of them are thinking about each other, but it's not up to them to make the decision at all. Bang bang bang. Father Li and Mother Li knocked on the door together. Grandma Li asked Li Painter to go in and hide, and Li Painter half pushed her back to the dark room. As soon as Grandma Li opened the door, the Li family rushed in and shouted, "Li Painter, come out quickly." Grandma Li also insisted, "I told you that Painter is not here." But this time Father Li will not be fooled by her again. "I've heard it all. If you take Painter to see Dr. Wang, Painter will definitely be with you." Father Li wanted to enter, but Grandma Li wanted to stop him. After some arguing and pulling, Grandma Li was obviously in a dilemma. Li Painter could no longer bear it and walked out on her own. "Don't bully Grandma, I'm here." "Painter!" Grandma Li exclaimed. Father Li slapped her mercilessly. "Li Painter, your wings are you. You treacherous son." Grandma Li picked up the crutch and knocked it on Father Li's leg. Father Li took the crutch away with an ouch. Because of this action, Grandma Li lost her balance and fell directly to the ground. Grandma may want to. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1388. Chapter 1388, Heartless Parents. Grandma. In a moment, Li Painter didn't know where the strength came from and actually waved away Li's father. She bent down and tried to pull Grandma Li up, but she was too small and too strong to pull her up. Grandma Li was sitting on the ground and was moaning continuously. She couldn't stand up even if she wanted to. "Go and get this person up quickly." At this time, Li's mother gave Li's father a push, and Li's father finally reacted. The man was very energetic. Father Li pulled the old man to his feet as soon as he started, but Grandma Li couldn't stand still. The whole family was in a panic. Grandma Li was already old and frail, so she lay down directly after being tortured like this. Li Painter ran to the doctor's house at the entrance of the village in the dark and knocked on the door. "Uncle, please help me. Go see my grandma." Li Painter was worried and anxious. The doctor and her family were kind-hearted. When they saw how pitiful the child was, they picked up a flashlight and went out with her. When I arrived at Grandma Li's house, I saw the Li couple sitting on stools, helpless. "Uncle, my grandma is inside." Li Painter pointed out the place to the doctor, and the doctor and his wife went in together. Li Painter originally wanted to follow her in, but Mother Li stretched out her hand and forced her to stay. "Mother, I hope you'll come over." Mother Li pulled her outside the door, bent down and asked in a low voice, "Did you go to see the doctor?" "Yes." Li Painter nodded seriously. The expression on Li's mother's face was unclear. "Do you have money to hire a doctor? Do you know how much it costs for a doctor to visit your home?" "Mom, it's already this time, these are not important at all now." She was only worried about whether there would be any problems with her grandma's health. She was very anxious. But Mother Li couldn't empathize with her, so she held her ears and taught her, "You girl, it doesn't matter if you come to the door to call me, can you get the money? I tell you, I don't care this time anyway, the doctor wants money for you, just find a way to pay off the debt yourself. Oh, maybe you can ask your grandma if she can get a deposit." Li Painter suddenly felt cold in her heart when she heard these words. "I have always known that my mother was not sincere to my grandma, but I never expected that at this critical moment of life and death." She could only hope that her father would retain some filial piety towards her grandma. But when Li Painter looked at Father Li frowned and remained silent, acquiescing to Mother Li's words. Li Painter didn't know where she got the courage. She seemed to be full of anger and turned around to avoid them. The doctor gave Grandma Li emergency treatment, but this alone was not enough. "You must find a car to take the elderly person to the hospital immediately. otherwise it will be dangerous. Looking for a car? Upon hearing this, Li Panner could only ask her parents again without giving up hope, Grandma is in danger. Dad, please help find a car quickly. I beg you. Where should I find a car now, damn it? Father Li was also anxious, but this kind of thing could only be done with money. He couldn't get the money and he didn't have a car to come back. Even if he was sent to the hospital, there was no money for treatment. Li Panner cried and begged to no avail. The doctor's wife stood awkwardly at the door and had no choice but to interrupt. Panner, your grandma is calling you. Li Panner quickly wiped her tears twice. After Li Panner entered, Li's mother pushed Li's father and motioned for him to go in too. They estimated that the old woman might not live long, and perhaps it would be time to take care of her funeral arrangements. Even though your mother is old, she is not confused at all if you go in and ask, there must be some good things hidden in the house. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1389. Chapter 1389 Grandma Li is dead. Grandma Li grabbed Li Panner and came to her. Her voice was weak when she spoke. Panner, Grandma won't be able to take care of you in the future. Grandma, you will be fine. Panner can take care of herself, and Panner will also take care of you. When Panner grows up, in the future. Grandma Li was panting heavily when she spoke, which made people feel itchy and panicked. Father Li squeezed in at this time. Mom, if you have anything else to say, just speak. My son is here to listen. The matter is now a foregone conclusion. Perhaps everyone knows in their hearts that Grandma Li cannot be saved. Finally, the funeral arrangements should be made. Father Li approached Grandma Li, and Grandma Li looked at him squarely. You will treat Panner in the future, so. Mom, I know, do you have anything else to say? Grandma Li shook her head and closed her eyes. Father Li felt uneasy. Mom, have you forgotten something? This can't be all you want to tell me, right? Grandma Li didn't answer. Father Li refused to give up and reached out to shake the old man's arm. Li Panner suddenly grabbed his hand and said, Dad, don't do this. How could the old man withstand the torment? He was panting after being shaken. He opened his squinty eyes, raised his hand and held Li Panner, and said with his last breath, Okay, good boy, be good and live well in the future. The old man did not survive this desolate autumn in the end. In a blink of an eye, winter is coming and it starts to snow in the village. This place is located in a cold area, and it will inevitably snow every winter. Now it only occasionally snows, and in a while, the ground will be covered with white snow. After Grandma Li's death, Li's father seemed to realize his conscience and treated Li Panner a little better. Perhaps it was the old man's last words that made him remember it in his heart, and he no longer dragged Li Panner to the city. However, this is just a little better than the original random beatings and scoldings. Li Panner is not at all ambiguous about his work. On this very cold day, the Li couple took off their clothes and threw them directly into a bucket for Li Panner to carry to a small river ditch for washing. Li Panner's hands began to turn red again, because chilblains begin to form every year at this time, and it hurts even more when it touches ice water. But she couldn't refuse while holding these dirty thick clothes. Du Hung from next door came to see her and secretly stuffed her some biscuits while the Li family and his wife were away. My dad brought these back from the city. Panner, you can keep them and eat them yourself, but don't let your parents find out. If the Li family and his wife find out, then the good things will definitely not fall into Li Panner's mouth. Li Panner carefully packed the things. She couldn't bear to finish the food after eating it halfway. She sealed the cut with something and put it under the bed to hold it down. The Lee couple came back from work and carried a lot of sweet potatoes on their backs. Is the rice ready? All right. The only good thing about Lee Panner's life in this family is that she doesn't have to work in the fields all day long, because her small body is too weak to carry her back. However, she has to do things at home all the time, such as sweeping the floor, washing clothes, and cooking, which are very time-consuming. Moreover, after the adults bring the sweet potatoes back, she is also responsible for washing and cutting the sweet potatoes to cook pig food. The work is not gravity work, but hard work. Mother Lee went outside to collect the clothes and found that the freshly washed clothes were still dripping with water. She asked dissatisfiedly, "Why are these clothes so full of water? Didn't you wring them out when you hung them up?" I have worked very hard." End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixey. Chapter 1390. Chapter 1390 Lee Painter's heart disease. You're calling it hard, you've eaten so much in vain. Yes, I'm sorry. Forget it, I'll get angry just looking at you. It is said that those who are close to red are red and those who are close to ink are black. The Lee family husband and wife have bad tempers. They are like each other when they are together. Their tempers become worse and worse. It seems that they can vent their sullenness by reciting a few words to others. Lee Painter has become their punching bag. The Lee family's couple only raised her as a pair of dishes and chopsticks, and really didn't spend much money on Lee Painter. But today, Lee Painter often feels that she has no strength and no energy, especially feeling uncomfortable in her heart. But she did not dare to tell her parents about these symptoms, for fear that she would be scolded again. Lee Painter is having a hard time in this family. People in the village feel sorry for her, but they can't help her. The doctor took a little more care of her and would sometimes check on her when he met her in the village. No, it happened by chance again when I went out today. Uncle Ying. Hey, Painter, are you going to do the laundry again? Yes, it's quite a lot. Alas, Dr. Ying really felt sorry for the child when he saw the bucket of clothes. He took a closer look and saw that Lee Painter's face had not looked good recently. Painter, have you been feeling unwell lately? I see that your face is very pale. Recently. Don't hesitate. Didn't we agree before? If you feel unwell, just say so. As a doctor, you have to be responsible for the patient. The day Dr. Ying mentioned was the day Grandma Lee passed away. Grandma Lee didn't leave anything for Lee Painter that day, mainly because she didn't want her to be forced by Lee's father to take money, but Grandma Lee did leave her last words and a little savings in her life. Grandma Lee gave those things to Dr. Ying and asked him to take care of her granddaughter in the future. Dr. Ying was really moved by the grandfather and grandson. He agreed to this matter and has been doing his best. Lee Painter bit her lip and told the doctor her recent true feelings. I feel a little unmotivated recently, and sometimes my heart hurts. Heart disease can be troublesome. Why don't you take some time to go to the hospital in the city? Uncle Ying, you are kidding me again. The city, isn't that a place where she can go if she wants to? Lee Painter waved to him and continued to wash clothes in the ditch with the bucket. Dr. Ying looked at Lee Painter's thin back and fell into deep thought. He wanted to help the child, but was unable to do so. He has a family to support, and it is impossible for him to lose his family's capital for the sake of other people's children. But Dr. Ying really kept this in mind. He asked Lee Painter's specific condition several times. When he went to a hospital in the city to study, he deliberately asked the doctor about the situation. However, even specialists cannot make a conclusion based on a few words. Everyone still wants to call people in for examination. Lee Painter's illness was just put on hold. Finally, she fainted on a snowy day. Lee Painter was so painful that she fainted at home and no one noticed her in time. It was because her parents were hungry and wanted to go home for dinner that they took her to the hospital. Normally they are reluctant to spend money to see a doctor, but when their child faints, they have no choice but to find a doctor. Dr. Ying, look at what's wrong with Panur. Mother Li is really worried. If this daughter is lying on the hospital bed, who will wash the clothes at home? Who cooks the food? Wouldn't it mean that a labor force would be lost in vain? End of this chapter.